Hello, welcome to the video notes for lesson 6-5, and this begins on page 14 in your notes packet in your binder. So the learning target for this is I can factor polynomials in the form x squared plus or minus bx minus c. So the key to that is, and this is all about factoring, the third term here, the constant, is a negative in this one. Remember, in the last lesson, that third term was positive, and that impacted what we had for our factors. Well, so does having a negative. So it's really important for you to remember, so write this down. C is a negative. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. In order to continue with this lesson, we need all of these expanded, all these binomials multiplied. So I want you to go ahead and do the multiplication, whether it's FOIL or double distributive or area model, for all of these on this page. I realize that we have number 3 doubled up a couple times. It should really be number 4 here and down below. So you're going to go through and find the answer when you multiply these out and get rid of the parentheses. And so what I want you to do is pause the video and do that on your own. I'm actually going to pause it on my end. So when you come back, that's all you're going to see is the answers. But I want you to have them first so you can check them on your own. Alright, so pause the video, and when we come back, we'll see compare answers. Here we go. Okay, so we're back now, and as you can see, I've worked out all the answers for all of these, and hopefully you've done the same so you can compare them. And I want to kind of pair them up. You'll notice I did color code these so that they go together. For instance, the blue ones, the 2 number 1s, they are very similar. Basically, the 3 terms look almost identical except for the middle one. If you look here, the middle one's a positive 3x, and down here it's a negative 3x. Well, what causes that? Well, first of all, we've got to look at that last term. We've got a negative 10 here. Why do we have a negative 10? Well, if you look at the 2 binomials, one's positive and one's negative. So in the previous lesson, they were either both positive or both negative. And because they were both the same sign, the last term ended up being positive because they were multiplied to get you that number. This time, the 2 terms have a different sign, so our answer is going to be negative. And then which one is positive and which one is negative is determined by this middle term. So since it's a positive 3, we know it's going to be 2 and 5 because that's the only way you're going to get 3. The other factors of 10 are 1 and 10. There's no way to get a 3 from 1 and 10. So it's got to be either positive 5 and negative 2 or negative 5 and positive 2. And because it's a positive 3, that means the 5 has to be positive. Because when they add together, it's got to give you plus 3. And then the opposite is true down below. Because the middle term is negative, that means the 5 has to be the negative term and the 2 is positive. Alright, so you'll see that same relationship with both number 2's, and they're in red. Again, the last term is what tells us our factors. So since it's negative 7, our factors are negative 1 and 7, or negative 7 and positive 1. Which one do you pick? So let me just point this out. So I've got either negative 1 and positive 7, or positive 1 and negative 7. So after I decide, well, okay, these are the 2 factors, so which one is it? Look at that middle term. Because it's a positive 6, if I add these together, which one's going to give me positive 6? It's this. So that's how I know when I factor it, when I go backwards, I'm going to get x minus 1, or negative 1, and x plus 7, or positive 7. All right? I'll scroll down so we can see the purples and the blues. Same concept. Middle term comes from a positive and negative being added together. So basically it's a subtraction problem. In the first number 3, or the left number 3, we are talking about the factors of 12, or negative 12. So what are factors of negative 12? Well, they could be 1 and negative 12, or 12 and negative 1. 3 and 4. Well, 3 are negative 4, negative 3, positive 4. 2 and 6. Now, I know it's not going to be 1 and 12 or 2 and 6 in any kind of combination of positive or negative, because the middle term has to be a 1. So remember, if there's no coefficient, that you got to pretend it's a 1. There's no way to get a 1 from a 2 and a 6 or a 1 and a 12. But from a 3 and a 4, you can. And it depends on if you need a positive 1 or a negative 1. And then, of course, the last combination, or the last pair, the green pair, the right side number 3. Okay, so I think the best way to further see this is to do some examples. So over on page 15, we have some examples. I'm going to walk you through factoring. Now, I think we already have, actually, no, we don't. I was going to say, I think the answers for these we've already done, but we haven't. So that's good. So we'll walk through these top 4 together, and then the bottom 6 will be for you to do, and don't worry, I'll find plenty of practice for us to do together in math. All right, here we go. So I'm looking at the first one. I've got x squared plus 4x minus 5. Now, because this is a negative number, I know that when I factor this, I'm going to get an x plus something and an x minus something, because a positive times a negative is a negative. Now, what are factors of 5? Well, it's either 1 and 5, or excuse me, let's start over. It's either 1 and negative 5, or negative 1 and positive 5. Now, if I add these together, here I'll get negative 4, here I'll get positive 4. Look at the middle, it's positive 4. So these are the 2 factors I need, negative 1, positive 5. There's your answer. Now, if you want to do the check, it's pretty simple. Just do FOIL. And if you FOIL this out, you get x squared minus x plus 5x minus 5. Combine your middle terms, x squared plus 4x minus 5. And you end up back where you started. It works out. Everything's great. So if you want to erase those red marks, or I'll erase them so you can see it. The check is always nice to do when it's a really complicated factoring problem and you're just not positive that you got it right. Factor or expand it out and see if when you get rid of those parentheses you end up with the same trinomial or expression that you started with. Okay, the next one. Oh, let's do the one below. So clearly I know what my factors of 5 are. It's either 1 and negative 5 or negative 1 and positive 5. Since I used positive 5 and negative 1 up here, and I look here, my middle term is negative 4. It should be pretty obvious. We've got a x minus 5 and an x plus 1. All right? You know what? I think you are ready to try this on your own. It's okay if you get these wrong, but the big idea here is that when you're factoring and your last term is a negative, that means you're going to have x plus something and x minus something. So all you got to do is find the right combination or right pair of factors, and you will be home free. So see if you can do these on your own. Tomorrow I'll go around and check, or today, depending on when you do the lesson, I'll go around and check to see who did the homework. And, you know, how about for every 2 people that actually answered these or tried them, I'll give you a point on your scoreboard. All right? Good luck, and we will see you in math.